Welcome to the Awakening Women Show. I'm your host, Leanne Oaten, a former counselor with a background in counseling psychology. I'm a mentor for high-achieving, ambitious women with over 13 years in the mental health and empowerment space. I've guided hundreds of women and have influenced over 100,000 through my platforms, podcast, and other courses, programs, and mentorship. I'm also the creator of the Relationship Clarity program, formerly known as End the Cycle, which you will hear me mention a lot of times as we go through the episodes. This program is to help women break free from destructive relationship cycles and come to clarity and power about their next step. This show is for the woman who knows her relationship struggles go deeper than the usual conflict. You know there's something more going on, but you can't quite nail it down or pinpoint what that is. You'll find clarity here, empowerment, truth, and validation. Clarity on whether your relationship can be healed or whether it's time to reclaim your life and move forward. What started as me sharing my own experiences quickly became a movement because the truth is, so many ambitious, successful women are stuck in confusing and draining relationship dynamics while trying to rise in every other area of their life, career, motherhood. This is you, you're not alone, and you don't have to keep living this way. Inside this podcast, you'll hear some of my most downloaded episodes, plus fresh content designed to help you break patterns, reclaim your wholeness, and decide once and for all if this relationship is where you belong. I'm so glad you found this space. Let's dive in. Welcome to this edition of the Awakening Women podcast. I'm your host, Leanne Oaten, and in this episode, we're diving into the pattern that high achieving fall into, which is the perpetual therapy trap. And as a former therapist, this might sound counterintuitive that I am saying that therapy can become a trap, but it actually can, and we're going to dive into that. But first, before I do that, I want to point you toward a resource that you can head to if you're just new to this show and you've started hearing me plant the seed around how to know if your love relationship has become an addiction. And again, this is not a diagnosis. This is not something that is in the DSM, which is the Diagnostic Manual for Clinicians. It's not any of that, but I have done enough work with women over the last 6 years and 13 years in total in my therapy practice when I was a counselor to be able to recognize that for some women, their relationship cycles become an addiction to the point where they are allowing it to destroy their life, their health, and even the safety of their children. So we have to look at it from that serious frame. I'm not here to sugarcoat shit. I'm not here to say, oh, it's okay, and pat you on the back. I'm here to wake you up. So it's definitely not for everyone. I have definitely shifted my messaging on this show away from the narcissistic abuse side. That's not to say that women aren't experiencing this, because they absolutely are. This is stuff that women are working through inside the collective, but it is a different frame. They're not in there venting about what he has done this time. They know that that is not going to get them anywhere. And so then they actually start to move forward. And these are women who have done all of the therapy. All the women I work with have always done all the therapy and tried all the processing and have never had any success or forward movement with that. So if you have been here and hearing me plant those seeds and you're wondering, is this something that I'm actually experiencing? Or perhaps you have that initial denial of that's not what's going on here. I'm not addicted. I don't even like him. Still go pop in and take that class. It's 20 minutes. It's going to give you some clarity. There's a self-assessment to see, is this going on? And if it is, at what level? And be aware that a lot of times successful women, we don't want to identify with having an addiction to anything, of course, right? We don't want to identify with anything that might make us seem as though we are flawed or weak in some way, because we're not. And that's not my goal here for you. I want this to empower you to go, oh my God, a light has been flipped on. I've been trying to find answers to this for decades, and this just shone a light on everything. And then once we know, then we can fix it. But what happens is that denial is a way that we avoid ourselves, because then if we admit, I'm the reason why I continue suffering, I'm the reason, then that means that you have to do something about that. And a lot of times, a lot of women don't want to do that work. I know that's not you, because you wouldn't be here listening to my take on these subjects, because I'm not talking about it like a lot of other people are. I certainly did when I first began Awakening Women, it was very heavy on the narcissistic abuse patterning. So if you were to scroll back hundreds of episodes, you will see there's a ton of that on there. And that's why I'm not doing that anymore, because it's there if you want to listen to that to get my take on this. I built a very, very successful, quickly growing community from those episodes. So they're there to serve you. However, I'm here to help the woman who's ready to evolve beyond awareness, beyond understanding the patterns, because you already know it. So many women would say, I already know what's going on. I could write books on this, but I can't leave. Well, this is why we're here talking about this, because I don't lead this from theory or just books. I lead it from pattern recognition, understanding it because I've lived it. It has been my journey. Understanding it because I've done this for 13 years. I've counseled and coached women for 13 years, over 13 years now. And I have a background in counseling psychology where I learned all the methodologies and counseling approaches and how to do this work ethically and safely for women. But I'm not offering counseling anymore. I offer a very different type of coaching inside of the collective, a different type of mentorship. But women stay. The thing that 13 years doing this has taught me is that women don't stay stuck because they lack insight or they don't know any better or they don't have enough information or they haven't done enough therapy. It's that insight alone doesn't rewire those patterns. You can have all the insights and aha moments in the world and still go back to doing what you were doing before. That's why doing all the reading and listening to YouTube, it's not changing anything. You can go, oh, wow, that's an insight. But you're not integrating it. You're not actually doing the work. And so the first key I want to get in here before we dive into this therapy piece is that how do we know when we are in an unhealthy imbalance in a love relationship? This is going to serve you if you're in one right now that you know you need to make your way out of, or you're out of one and you want to avoid getting in another one. So this is what we need to work on within ourselves so that we stay healthy, so that we leave something like this and don't end up right back in the boiling pot of water once again and finding ourselves in the same type of relationship, because this is very common. Women think leaving is the breaking of the cycle, but it's not. It's another layer of healing and breaking the addiction that actually needs to happen on the other side. But that's another topic altogether. And that is what we're doing inside the collective. Is it's a full spectrum support from where you are now to getting out the other side, breaking the addictive patterns and reclaiming self. So leaving does not break the addictive component. It does not break the pattern. So one of the things that women do when they work with me is I'm very much about bringing a woman back to herself, to her truth, because we're very good at, I'm fine, I'm this, I'm that, it's good, it's not that bad, I'm just being jealous, I'm being too much, I'm this, I'm that, I'm confused, I'm overreacting, and we stuff down our truth. And I don't want anyone to do that. That is so toxic to ourselves. It's self-abuse to do that. So how do we know that we have an unhealthy way of relating in a relationship so that we know we will not repeat this again? And in doing so, we won't attract someone in that will take advantage of us, because we will have these new standards, new boundaries, new expectations for how we will show up in a relationship, the type of boundaries we will have in a dating relationship. And it's this. Women who get hooked into addictive love patterns, who have an emotional addiction underneath it all, what they do in relationships is they assign a disproportionate amount of time, attention, and value above themselves to the person that they are addicted to. And there is almost always an obsessive nature to it. So those two things are happening simultaneously. This is a sign of an unhealthy attachment within you, and that's why it's your work. Because think about it. If you already know that you have that propensity to do that, and you start going into a dating relationship with that kind of energy of just no boundaries, you're going to be a match for someone just like you have been trying to avoid or get away from. The other thing that happens with women who tend to become addictive with their love patterns is that they neglect to care for or value themselves in relationships. They don't value themselves, they don't respect themselves, and they don't love themselves. Because when those...
Imagine you're a business owner relying on a dozen different software programs. Each one is expensive, overly complicated, and worst of all, none of them are connected. It can be incredibly stressful, right? Now, picture Odoo. CRM, accounting, inventory, manufacturing, marketing, HR, and more. Odoo brings all the tools your business needs into one simple platform, and all seamlessly connected. Everything works together, giving you the peace of mind that your business is running smoothly from every angle. Odoo's open source applications are user-friendly and designed to scale with your business, saving you time and money. Say goodbye to juggling multiple platforms and hello to efficient integrated management. Stop wasting resources on complicated systems and make the switch to Odoo today. Visit odoo.com, ODOO.com, and discover how Odoo can simplify and streamline your business operations. Odoo, modern management made simple.
Things are in place. You don't sit around and tolerate things. You don't sit around and wait for things to get better. You don't give someone 1,000,001 chances to continue to mistreat you when there is active, blatant stuff going on that they're not actually working on and they're not changing. Those are the three components that women need to work on, is having more of a balance of what the time, energy, attention, and value that they're putting above themselves to a relationship, noticing their obsessive nature about the relationship and the relationship partner or dating partner, and then the neglect that they have to caring for themselves. They start to put everything into the relationship and start abandoning themselves, self-abandonment. So that is a way to self-assess, do I have those characteristics? And if I do, then I need to change that within myself, rewire that. And it's not a quick fix. It's really not. But it is doable. And it can happen fairly quickly when you have the right tools, support, processes, integration, and accountability. One of the traps that high achiever, successful women get into is that they feel like if they're doing enough therapy, if they process everything correctly, they finally get to the root and they heal this thing, whatever it is. It could be something that happened in their childhood, or there's some big thing that I've heard this so many times. There's this big thing blocking me. Something is stopping me. I'm so angry. I don't know what it is. I can't move past this. I've heard this so many times with clients. And so we have to really understand that this actually is the illness within itself, is putting it out there saying, I cannot be happy, I cannot heal, I cannot have the things I want in my life until I heal this thing that happened to me. And it's not that the trauma isn't necessarily resolved. It may or may not be. Now, if you're someone who has done all the trauma therapy, you've done the EMDR, you've worked with an actual trained trauma clinician, like someone that has done this work, they have experience, they have the clinical training to actively move trauma. So this is where you're actually going in and you're reliving the trauma while they do eye movements. I don't believe in that. I don't like it. I really don't. I have had it done and it triggered some pretty intense trauma when I was pregnant, and I wouldn't do it again. And I know other people that have said the same thing, that it made them feel way worse and it brought up way too much, way too soon, and it just, I don't know that we need to be doing that. And that's not to shame anyone or say don't do it. Do what you feel called to do. Maybe that's something that has helped many others. I personally had a very bad experience with it and I would never do it again. I also wouldn't recommend it. Now, if you have had traumas in your past, does that mean you ignore them? No, it's great to be aware of them. But if it becomes your identity, that you have this thing you need to move past in order to live your life, it actually can become part of the addictive component. You probably never heard it said that way. But it can become part of the emotional addiction to trying to resolve something. You're always trying to achieve some kind of thing, and you think, if I could just get over this thing that happened to me, or get over this past thing, whatever it is. Some women don't remember it. They're like, I don't know what it is, but I've got to find it. Do you see how that can just be another form of self-abandonment, because you're not actually living your life. You're trying to live in the past. And when we live in the past, this creates depression. This creates feelings of stuckness. You can't be joyful and happy in the now when you're stuck trying to process the past. There is a time for that. There is a place for that. But if you have done all the therapy, you've worked on it actively, and you're still saying, I still need to heal this. Now what we need to do is just integrate. We need to integrate. That happened. We cannot erase what has happened. Some of us may never be able to fully get over things that have happened. And do we have to? So the thing we need to do is look at, how is it impacting my life now? Okay, well, it's making me choose unavailable men. What happened to me in the past is showing up in my now because I am picking men who don't value me. I'm picking men who don't actually want to be available to me. I'm picking men who are relationship and love avoidant. I emotional eat to numb my feelings of low self-worth. Okay, so let's work on that. That's my approach, and it has been since I first opened the doors to my counseling practice. I wanted an emotionally focused, solution-focused approach to therapy, and it is why the therapy I practiced was so effective for women that came in. And so now I just bring those tools and that experience into my mentorship spaces to help women with, yes, we deal with the emotion and then we find solution. And we've just got to find a way eventually to say, I need to move on from this. This thing happened. I've done therapy for it. I've admitted it. This thing happened. I've talked about it. I'm aware that it happened. And I'm also aware that it's impacting me. How is it impacting me? Okay, so now I need to find how I can integrate those things into my life now, how I can transmute it, move it from one form to another, because we can't erase it. Your healing doesn't need to be a full-time project, and you don't need to defeat what happened to you. You don't need to overcome it. This is not the same as saying, I'm going to avoid it and not do any work around what happened to me. No. And in fact, the women that come to me, that's not what they do. They high achieve their healing journey. They have tenacity and ambition with their self-work. I get it. I'm like that too. It is a passion of mine. And I have had to also learn that there's also time for integration, that there's also time for letting shit settle. Like, for instance, the last couple of days, I have felt less motivated, more like I just want to putter and go for walks and do things around the house, not necessarily be out there doing much of anything. And I was judging myself. I'm like, why am I feeling this way? Well, when I actually tapped into that, I was like, well, why wouldn't I be feeling this way? And I could pinpoint where it's probably coming from. It's grief, it's change, it's loss, it is sadness, it's life being so different now than it used to be. And instead of numbing that, I'm just allowing myself to integrate that. And that's what I want women to learn how to do. Be emotionally self-mastered. So I want you to really think about this and feel into what part of this is really resonating with you. You don't need to constantly be improving yourself. You don't need to understand every single thing that's happened to you and how exactly it is hindering your now. It's really just a fear of never wanting to be caught unprepared again. We don't want to be tricked again. And so through this, we become these insightful, deep women, spiritual women. We're self-aware. We're also very fluent in the trauma language. As I said, many women they can sit there and and verbalize all of the things they think that they have or where they're stuck. I have abandonment wounds. I have trauma bonding. I have this, I have that, I have the other thing. And my partner has this and that, and he's got this history and he has this trauma. And they can sit there and intellectualize everything and yet stay just as stuck, if not more. And they're very capable of talking about their pain. But the catch with that is that those traumas, the things that have happened, don't live within those insights. They're actually in our body, and they're in our identity of the woman that we see ourselves as now. And so this all has happened as an adaptation to things that we have experienced. And so the big piece that keeps the high achieving, successful women stuck in my world, the women that come in that have tried everything, they're nothing like lazy, they're not passive, they're not the ones to hide from challenge. It's that if it's healed, it shouldn't bother me anymore. And that is a problem, to believe that. Trauma is not healed by erasing it or vaporizing it or erasing it from our minds, because it cannot happen. And if you have done any study on Peter Levine's work on trauma, he said that the only way, one of the big ways to heal our relational trauma is in healthier relationships. So if you don't have those kind of people in your life, then it's in mentors that can reflect things back to you, that can validate, hold you accountable, stop sugarcoating things, and just tell you the truth. When you are held in a space like that, if you have even one close friendship that you have that in, that's valuable. But it definitely is through mentorship. It's specialized mentorship, not just any mentorship. And it's more than just taking in information and reading stacks of books and videos. It's context driven. How do I apply this now in my life to change this pattern? Because I can have all the insights and inspiration I want, but that's not going to lead to change. Because if it did, you wouldn't be here listening to this. If information was enough to change patterns, the women that come in that are absolutely just frustrated and at their end of their rope because they've tried everything, they would have figured it out, because it was not for lack of trying. And I'm sure you can relate to that as well. We exhaust everything. We have a lot of high pain tolerance, a lot of tolerance for bullshit that we need to actually rewire so that we have less tolerance. We don't want to be tolerant. It's like you need to learn to adapt to life, yes, but we certainly don't want to have a high tolerance for bullshit. So it's the belief that is the problem, that trauma isn't healed by erasure. It's healed by relationship. And it's not about digging in the closet forever, trying to find the solution. It's not reliving it endlessly in therapy and EMDR and regression therapies in whatever somatic work. Somatic work can be, I'm fucking pissed off and I have rage and I'm going to go march my ass up a hill as fast as I can while I'm feeling that. I'm going to let myself feel it. And I'm going to cry. I'll go out somewhere where it's private, or I'll put shades on. I don't care. My somatic work is I'm going to go out for a brisk walk or run to move this anger through. So it doesn't need to be hours and hours and hours and hours sitting in a therapist chair, because you're retelling the same story over and over and over, hoping that it gets better. So here's what integration actually looks like. And this is the part that most therapies miss. You have to stop trying to outgrow the wounded parts of you. The abandoned child doesn't just disappear, and she doesn't need to. What you actually need is consistency, containment in safe spaces to process what's happening for you now. We don't need to go into the past. In fact, I don't do that. I don't do work that is like, let's go back and revisit what happened. I'm not saying there isn't a place for that, but you need to go, like I said, to a trained psychologist, clinician, someone that's got specialized training in moving trauma through, if that is something you really feel called to do. Otherwise, we work with what's present now in the body. We work with what is happening now for us through mindfulness, through sensation focus, through being aware of our emotions and our triggers and what's going on for us, and then rewiring those patterns. And so every time you ask yourself, why is this still here? I should be over this by now. I don't understand. What else do I need to do? You're actually abandoning that version of you again, that little girl. And instead, what you need to do is say, of course, this part exists. Of course, I'm going to have feelings about whatever happened in the past. And I'm not going to leave her. I'm going to say, what do you need right now? What do you need right now? I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to look after us now. I'm here to take care of us now. You can even envision adult you, little you. I always recommend my clients have a picture of their younger self because it taps you into that version of you, and you can now take on that mothering role to reparent her. What do you need? I'm here for you now. You're not alone. We'll figure this out together. We'll get through this together. I'll never leave you again. As long as you have you and you have her, no one can ever leave you again. And so this, this is deep. Obviously, this is not something you're going to necessarily hear on Instagram talking about narcissistic abuse, because it comes back to us ladies. It really does. We can't learn any more than we already know about traits of these men. And it does us no good to point the finger. We have to look at our own dysfunction. And so how we do this in the collective is we're learning to not override our instincts. We're not staying in situations that just recreate that original wound. This is self-love. This is self-protection. If you're in something that is constantly opening up those wounds, you're not in the right place. That does not mean that things don't come up in relationships that are healthy. Yes, they do. But you're doing your own work. You're not projecting that onto someone else. And also they are available to a degree that you can work those things out with them. You're also not using growth as a way to tolerate abuse, mistreatment, things that are no longer aligned, forcing things, trying to personal growth your way out of toxicity that's going on around you. And we're also learning to let discomfort exist without needing to fix it, because sometimes you can't. And this is where we start to break those addictive patterns that we have practiced for a lifetime. We have to learn how to tolerate unresolved emotion without needing to take action, because that's the addictive route. Because high achieving women, we believe if I feel it, then I need to do something about it to fix it. But that's not it. Because true healing happens when you can say, I feel sad, but I don't need to do anything to numb it. I feel grief, but I'm not going to break under the pain. I'm going to feel it. I'm scared, but I'm not going to allow my fear to stop me from doing what I know it is I need to do. That is emotional maturity. That is actual healing. It's working with what is present in the now. The goal is not to never be triggered again or to never feel pain or sadness. And it's never even necessarily about never revisiting that wound or the thing that happened. It might, but we don't want to sit in that. We don't want to sit in therapy and talk about our shit over and over. As I said, do it. Say, I'm going to do trauma therapy for 90 days. I'm going to go in, I'm going to vent to this trauma therapist, find an actual trauma therapist, and I'm going to give myself 90 days to go in and just talk all this out, because I've never talked about it before. Go for it. Do it. Then once you have gotten that all out, and if you already have done that and you're still doing that, this is a big red flag. It's time to do something different. You cannot do that for your whole life and not stay stuck in it. Eventually we have to say, this thing happened and I'm choosing to move on despite it. And we have to have the goal be that I trust myself not to abandon me when these feelings get activated. I am there for me. That is the healing piece. We cannot outsource this healing. Even the best counselor or trauma therapist, we can't idealize them as if they have some golden key to fix our trauma or to make it feel okay. It might never. Let's just accept that everything that has happened to you up until this point, it's not going to go away. But what it does is it loses its charge. You can see that it's there and still choose to do something different. So remember that any trauma doesn't persist because you didn't do enough work. It's that you kept trying to solve it and fix it and find a solution instead of holding yourself in it. And as you start learning this and you start softening into this new space and you stop trying to fix every emotion that comes up, then you stop needing that validation, the constant therapy, seeking for the next thing to fix you, addictive relationships, hot, cold relationships, external regulation. You see, therapy can become its own emotional addictive pattern. That's not something most talk about. And it's not about, I'm never going to get triggered again. It's that I'm never going to abandon myself again. And you are the one that gets to make that decision. And when you really get that, nobody can touch you. Nothing can touch you, because now you're telling yourself, I am never abandoning me again. I don't need to fix me. I need to work with what has happened. And now from here on, create what I want. Create the life that I want. And so if you're in a relationship right now that is not what you deserve, you know that you deserve so much more, and this, you know, you need to leave. You've done all the work on trying to figure out how to fix it, and you know that you probably should leave, but you still feel hooked in. Then what you need to do is get into the collective, because this is the work that women are doing in there every day, and not in a way that's I'm fixing me every day. It's I'm learning to love me more today. I'm learning to just relax into what is today, the discomfort, and working with patterns that come up that have previously kept them stuck so they can shift them. So you're held in that container of evolution. We're not in there processing traumas and going into what happened. That's not what I do. I work with what is now to integrate it on a holistic level, because talk therapy has a place, but it has its limitations. I have worked with amazing women, but why I don't do talk therapy anymore is how many times I would do sessions with women that were just coming in talking about the same things week after week. And I would say, did you do the thing? How did this last week go? I gave you these things to do. Did you do them? No, I didn't do them. And then they're still talking about the same pattern because they're addicted to the pattern. They don't want to do anything about it. And I can't work with that. I will not. And so I don't do the repeated stuff. If I start to see things that are repeating, then I know that something's been missed there. There's somewhere that there is a stuck point, and then I need to figure out where women are getting stuck. And then I put something into the collective that is that missing piece. Because I don't do long drawn out healing sessions anymore. I don't do therapy. I do emotional focused coaching, and I help you to come back to yourself so that you can start attracting in the life that you truly desire. So this one was a little longer, more in depth. This is more of a taste of the work that I do in my mentorship. I don't do surface. I am not a surface level woman. And so if you are someone that is wanting depth, and this resonated with you, then I think you really would love the collective. If you're not someone that wants to go deep, then it wouldn't be for you. If you want to just come in and vent about him, not for you. If you want to come in just so you can be heard and talk about how awful it is, definitely not. This is for women who are done with all that because they've already done that. They've talked about it a million times and they're done with that. And some women will say, I felt really called to come work with you, sign up for coaching, because I've been doing this work for a long time. And so often that would be what women would say. I've done this, that, and the other thing. And I was worried this would be another thing I would fail at, but I felt compelled to do it anyway. And I'm so glad I did, because this is exactly the missing piece that I needed. And I think this speaks to the addictive thing. And I don't want to be the one on the pedestal either. That's like, I'm rescuing women. No, it's just that I have experience. I have life experience. I have experience in the field. And I've worked with so many women in dysfunctional love relationships that I have a very unique view on it. And I don't sugarcoat. I don't even talk like a therapist. Like that made me feel so boxed in to have to be a certain way. Now I can say something like, here's what I want you to do. Here's what you need to do. Here's what my intuition is telling me. Here's the first hit that I got on what I see going on for you. And because I practiced like that as a therapist, women just gravitated towards me. They loved it. And so it's not about not needing mentorship. I am very much about mentorship, but it's not, you don't do it from a place of, oh, maybe this person's going to be what fixes me, or maybe this man is going to be the thing that fixes me, or this amount of money, or this promotion, or this amount of income. That is what I need to do, and then I'll be happy. That's what you have to watch for, because that's the addictive aspect talking, right? That's the addictive aspect at play, that there's something external that's going to come in and save you and rescue you from the pain, when what you really need is guidance that helps you find the solutions from within, guidance that helps you with where to look to find the solution. So if this resonated with you and you want to go deeper and actually do this type of mentorship with me and an intimate group of women, the collective is the place to be. So what you can do is click the link in the show notes. It may not be open at this time of listening, wherever you are listening to this, but there will be a place you can join the wait list, and then I will notify you when it opens up again. In the meantime, you can take my free class to self-assess what level of emotional addiction is going on here, if any, and then the next steps forward if you do identify with that. It also gives you a score as far as like, is this going on for you and at what level? And you can get that at leanneoaten.com/detox. The link is also in the show notes, as I mentioned. And I will chat with you in the next episode. Bye for now.